My coaching client, Renee, started eating 5 eggs a day, and after just 30 days, she lost 8 pounds. After 90 days, she was down 16 pounds and was a completely different person, going from a size extra large to a size medium. Before Renee started eating 5 eggs a day, she was stuck on a plateau for 2 years, despite periods where she was just eating 1 meal a day. She also had the worst cravings. She was always hungry. Before figuring out she needed to eat 5 eggs a day in order to boost her metabolism and start losing weight again. And if you've also been experiencing slow or stalled weight loss, despite barely eating anything, you might think something's wrong with your body. But I'm here to tell you, you can eat as much as 5 eggs a day and start losing weight again as Renee did. I'll give you the full story, exactly how she was able to do it. But first, let me give you some context that's really important to understand all of this. You're probably wondering, wouldn't you build up all this cholesterol in your arteries and die of a heart attack or stroke if you eat 5 eggs a day? The short answer is no. Let me explain. Eggs got a bad rap in the health space for decades because it's high in cholesterol. There was a big push to avoid foods high in saturated fat and cholesterol because they go hand in hand. So people wanting to lose weight usually remove the yolk when they eat it because that's where the saturated fat and cholesterol is. Now they're just left with this egg white blob of sadness. However, in 6 major clinical studies, it was found that eggs did not increase or was not associated with heart disease in healthy people. In fact, there are tremendous benefits when it comes to eating eggs. For starters, it contains hard-to-find vitamins and nutrients like lutein and choline, which are essential for eye and brain health. And it makes sense. An egg contains all the nutrients to create new life, making it one of the most nutrient-dense foods on the planet. So why the puzzling push to avoid eggs? I mean, the general safe recommendation is to eat less than 2 eggs a day. We need to play a little detective to find some answers. Turns out, any study against eating eggs are just based on questionnaire or observational studies, meaning they're not credible studies at all. Like, if you ever want something to appear in a certain way, just do an observational study. You can make the data look any which way you want, especially if you're pushing for a certain agenda. Unfortunately, that's what highly influential entertainment films like What the Health, Cowspiracy, or Game Changers use for their overreaching health claims. It's a problem because it creates a lot of confusion, because they do a great job pulling your heartstrings. But all the health claims in those documentaries have now been debunked. Again, because it was based on garbage and cherry-picked data. In these observational studies, people are given food questionnaires about what they ate, as if anybody can remember exactly what they ate 3 days ago, let alone months or even years ago. There's also the healthy user bias factor. But that type of study can only establish correlation, not causation. So if you torture the data enough, you can make correlations about anything. For example, according to TylerVigan.com, and these sound ridiculous, there's a correlation between the number of people who drowned by falling into a pool and movies Nicolas Cage appeared in. There's also a correlation between per capita cheese consumption and the number of people who died by becoming tangled in their bed sheets. Like, what? According to the famous entertainment film, What the Health, eating an egg is as bad as smoking a cigarette. Ridiculous. In what universe does that make sense? It's because they're trying to push a certain ideology, going plant-based. But does that sound like good science to you? It's complete BS. Let's circle back to Renee. Not knowing any better, she was following the standard advice of eating less than 2 eggs a day. She was also avoiding foods high in cholesterol like eggs and red meat. She thought she was doing the right thing. As a result, her body wasn't functioning optimally because it wasn't getting enough key nutrients, especially high-quality protein, to build and maintain her muscle. So she was becoming a part of a couple of not-so-good statistics. According to this review, the average adult loses half a pound of muscle and puts on 1.5 pounds of fat every year from age 25 to 55. That's exactly what was happening to Renee. She had been gaining a couple of pounds every year. Her work scrubs were starting to fit tighter. She also had to use a seatbelt adjuster to accommodate the negative trend in her body composition. So unless she intentionally took the proper action to protect her muscles from atrophy, her body will naturally need fewer calories as she aged because she was steadily losing muscle every year. because muscle is an energy expensive tissue to build and maintain. That makes weight gain almost inevitable as she aged if she didn't make the necessary lifestyle adjustments. But that's the number one reason why most well-meaning people, like Renee, don't eat more than an egg or two a day. They've been wrongly conditioned to think eggs, which humans have been eating for thousands of years, are bad because it's high in cholesterol. And if you're still under the impression that cholesterol is bad, in 2015, the US quietly dropped its caution about eating cholesterol-laden food, undoing almost 40 years of government warnings about its consumption. Bet you didn't see that on the news. As you can see, it was wrongly vilified to begin with because of bad science. Dietary cholesterol is not bad for you. It has nothing to do with your body's cholesterol levels. In fact, cholesterol is important for every cellular function in the human body. Like, if it's so bad for you, why does your own body make its own cholesterol? You would die without it. It hurts my brain when I see people post pictures of their sad-looking egg white omelet. Yuck. But here's where cholesterol gets more interesting. The Minnesota coronary study on 9,000 men and women over 4.5 years found that the more they lowered their cholesterol, the more they died of a heart attack. Serum cholesterol, or blood cholesterol, is not a strong risk factor for coronary heart disease. There is no correlation between dietary cholesterol intake, like eating an egg yolk, and blood cholesterol levels. So, now that you know that you're not gonna die from eating 5 eggs a day, let's talk about what makes an egg a true superfood. One egg contains 6 grams of high-quality protein and virtually every single nutrient the human body needs to thrive. Again, it contains hard-to-find nutrients like choline, which can only be found in animal foods, as well as lutein, which are important for eye and brain health. Those nutrients can prevent age-related macular degeneration, or AMD. It's an eye disease that can blur your central vision. AMD has actually gone up on a disturbing hockey stick-like curve over the past few decades. I mean, maybe it's because people have been avoiding foods containing choline that could prevent it. Eggs also contain retinol, which is the bioavailable form of vitamin A, another nutrient important to vision and immunity, as well as other important B vitamins like B1, B2, B3, B6, and B12. There's also vitamin D, vitamin E, vitamin K1 and K2, as well as omega-3 fatty acids. It also contains phospholipids, which are anti-inflammatory and is important for cell membranes. It's basically nature's version of a multivitamin. And again, most of the nutrients are found in the yolk. Imagine that. So for crying out loud, stop eating egg white omelets. To preserve the aforementioned nutrients as much as possible, the best way to eat an egg is over easy or over medium, where the yolk is a little runny. Just try not to overcook your eggs because it might destroy some of the nutrients from overheating. I also don't recommend eating raw eggs unless you can find pasture-raised eggs. Speaking of the best type of eggs, let me just simplify this, especially if you're just getting your eggs at your local grocery store. Unless it specifically says pasture-raised organic eggs, which is the highest quality egg you can get, because the chickens are happy walking around eating their natural diet of bugs, worms, insects, grub, and whatever else they can find, there's very little difference between free-range, cage-free, grade A, grain-fed, vegetarian, white or brown eggs, or whatever branding is on the egg carton. It's all marketing. You can get pasture-raised eggs at a farmer's market, but if you can't find them in your area, even the cheaper store-bought eggs I just mentioned are infinitely better than eating cereal for breakfast. Because again, an egg, hands down, is one of the most nutrient-dense foods on the planet. Let's go back to Renee. During our initial consultation, she mentioned her frustration about her stalled weight loss, despite avoiding foods high in cholesterol like red meat and eggs, which also meant she was barely getting any protein in her diet. This was the number one reason why her weight loss has stalled. So the first thing Renee did was to make sure she was getting adequate and high quality protein for every meal to make sure her body had all the raw materials it needed to function optimally and maintain her muscle. By the way, if you want to work with me as well, you can book a free consultation by clicking the link in the description and comments below. But by high quality protein, I'm talking about protein from animals and animal products like eggs, as well as beef, fish, seafood, pork, or chicken, because it has the most abundant and bioavailable nutrients. When it comes to muscle specifically, animal protein contains all the essential amino acids to trigger something called muscle protein synthesis. It's the process of building and maintaining muscle. Renee learned that she needed to eat at least 30 grams of high-quality protein per meal to trigger the all-important muscle protein synthesis. Now, here's why eating 5 eggs is such a magical number. 5 eggs magically equates to 30 grams of protein. So Renee started eating all 5 eggs in one meal. In fact, she eats 6 soft-boiled eggs in one sitting, then follows it up with a different type of animal protein for her other meal. Or she would eat a couple of eggs, along with a different type of animal protein to meet the 30 gram per meal minimum protein requirement. Eating this way also virtually turned off all her cravings. She finally felt satiated from her meals, because protein is the most satiating macronutrient. This was the missing link in Renee's diet to kickstart her fat-burning metabolism again. Research backed up eating 5 eggs a day. This study shows that increasing daily protein intake from 15% to 30% resulted in 440 calories less consumed per day, which led to an average weight loss of 11 pounds in 12 weeks. For Renee, it was even better. After eating 5 eggs a day for 30 days, her fat-burning metabolism went into high gear and she ended up losing 8 pounds. After 90 days, she was down 16 pounds. She also dropped 2 shirt sizes, going from an extra large to a medium. But it's not always about the weight you lose, it's about the life you gain. In her words, "My scrub top is no longer tight in the back. My leggings are starting to be loose on me." She also had to adjust her seatbelt multiple times to account for the weight she's lost. She doesn't get winded anymore when she goes up a flight of stairs at her work. Who knew that the secret was as simple as eating 5 eggs a day? Now, in order to achieve sustainable weight loss, you have to make supportive lifestyle choices as well. So make sure you don't ignore this video where I talk about the best exercise for weight loss. You don't want to miss it. I'll see you there.